But for me, it was important that I don't like the one-size-fits-all approach, and I want to be able to cater it for the needs of my community. And I think it's important to set benchmarks. Where are you trying to go? Where is the municipality or the county government trying to go in, 3, 4, 5, 6 months? And how are we able to create efficiencies? I'm proud to say in Prospect Park, for instance, in my previous capacity, we reduced paper-based processes by 70%. We were able to, Parth has all the stats, but in terms of how many calls were reduced, but we were able to do a lot. And I think it's important to challenge yourself and make things happen. And I think it's important to touch base with everybody in your team, because if some folks feel left out, they can easily obstruct your project and the journey that you're trying to go on. And I think it's important to bring people to the table as well and collaborate with them.
Amazing. Well, Angie and Inchon, thank you so much. Y'all should definitely seek them out after and talk to them about some of the amazing things they're doing. But can we get a round of applause for them? I mean, just incredible.
The trouble is, it's just so obvious. I still see all the lines of surgery remnants where you cut away, left your flaws behind in the ether. Face of puzzle pieces that don't fit together. Puzzle pieces that don't fit together. It's never right, but you just can't move on. You can't side, take away or put on your side, but you won't stop working. A masterpiece in the flesh. It's your puzzle. It's your puzzle. It's yours. The doctor's hands carry out the plans to take you all apart and put you back again. Your face is canvas and your own body serves as your easel. It's just so hard to quit when you're hooked on it. You're just a junkie craving one more plastic fix. Keep you up to date with all the latest trends of the seasons. Face of puzzle pieces that don't fit together. Puzzle pieces that don't fit together. It's never right, but you just can't move on. You can't side, take away or put on your side, but you won't stop working. A masterpiece in the flesh. It's your get to know you. Do you ever wonder? No, 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 you girls never know. Oh no, you girls never know. No, you girls never know how you make boy feel. You girls never know. Oh no, you girls never know. No, you girls never know how you make boy feel. How you make boy. Kiss me, flick your cigarette and then kiss me. Kiss me where your eye won't meet me. Meet me where your eye won't flick me. Flick your mind and mine so briefly. Oh, you know you're so sweetly. Oh, you know, I know that I love you. I mean I need to love. Do you ever wonder? No, 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 you girls never know. Oh no, you girls never know. No, you girls never know how you make boy feel. You girls never know. Oh no, you girls never know. No, you girls never know how you make boy feel. How you make boy feel. How you make boy.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to day 2 of Startup Pitches. We are going to jump right into 12 amazing pitches today. Before I get started, if you were not here yesterday, I just want to explain how this is going to work. So I'm going to call out each startup at a time. They have 4 minutes to pitch. I will cut them off. And then we have 3 minutes of question time from our judge panel that's in the front right here. I will also cut them off at 3 minutes, and I will be hiding behind the stage, kind of steering the ship with this mic throughout the time. Before I kick this off, I just want to remind people that the 24 startups that pitched at our event are competing. There's going to be 3 prizes that are going to be handed out at the end of the day with the closing remarks today. So please stick around for that and support our entrepreneurs. Immediately after the pitch time, we are going to go into lunch. And about 40 minutes into lunch, we're going to have an awesome lunchtime keynote panel. So make sure you come eat in here for that. Before I welcome the first startup to the stage, I would like to give the judges a quick second to just introduce themselves so you know who is on the judge panel today. Hillary, why don't I start with you?
Thanks. Hillary Orr with the City of Alexandria.
Roger Wright with City of Plano.
Josh Franzel, Senior Executive and Director of the Center for Research and Data Analysis at the National League of Cities.
Christian Sente, co-founder of Creative Co Capital.
Kevin Carter, the Director of Business Development for Ecomap Technologies.
Yusuf Khalad, Principal with AliCorp, a VC fund in New York.
Wonderful. Well, thanks to our esteemed judges for participating today. I'm sure you'll have lots of great questions. With that, I'm going to welcome the first startup to the stage, Beam.
Good morning. I am here to talk to you about Magic Notes, a product that is transforming human services with AI. But first, I got a question for you. Would a country send its troops to the front line with ancient weapons? Well, 7 million Americans on the front line of social problems are doomed by ancient technology. I'm talking about millions of nurses, social workers, caseworkers, supporting tens of millions of American seniors, vulnerable young people, people with disabilities, and more. And those ancient technologies, we're talking about SAS, sometimes decades old, and pen and paper everywhere. No surprise that US Human Services has a people problem, with talent burning out and quitting the sector in droves. But that is not all. Old ways of working are unaffordably inefficient, wasting billions of dollars at a time of spiraling deficits and when cities are staring down huge budget gaps. There has to be a better way, and there is. Magic Notes creates human services documents in seconds. And not any old documents, excellent, consistent, compliant documents. So how does it work? Super simple. People sit down to start their meeting, and instead of having to scribble or type away, they press a button to start recording. They press a second button when the meeting is over. And then they press a third button to pick the document of their choice. Now, we have deep passion and expertise in human services. We've developed more than 1,000 human services documents. We've developed a tool that is resilient in the chaotic environment of human services with features like offline mode. And we also deliver human services ourselves in the UK. And we built this tool originally for our team, dog-fooded it intensively, and then got it out to market. This is what it looks like on web. You have the full audio and transcript, very helpful for nipping vexatious litigation in the bud. You can chuck up the document into any format your brain can dream up. You have a very helpful chat function on the right, which can create other artifacts like emails and letters in just a few seconds. It's also like a manager on the shoulder, giving constant support and mentorship to people on the front line. And that's not all. There's complex analytics, reports, and so much more in this product. This product is already loved by more than 120 government bodies in the UK, and just a few months into our US launch, we have exceptional traction and are already live in a 5,000 employee organization. We start by piloting the tool, and 100% of times we piloted it, the organization has wanted to continue using the tool. And that is because it is loved by thousands of frontline workers. Here are just some of the testimonials we have, but my favorite testimonial was a social worker talking to the UK Prime Minister, and she told him that because this product is taking care of most of her admin, she can see double the number of people in the average week. My name is Alex, my co-founder is Seb. He has more than a decade experience in the public sector and human services. My last company was backed by BMW and we sold for 9 figures. This company will be bigger, but much more importantly, it will be far more impactful. Because it is only when we finally put the latest technologies into the hands of those frontline workers, those heroes doing God's work day in, day out, it is only then that we will finally solve society's biggest challenges. Thank you. Happy to take any questions.
So are you going in and meeting with cities and understanding what their format is, or using pre-made templates, or you work with them directly to understand what their needs are?
Yeah, it's much more the latter. So one of the things we've learned delivering services and working with 120 government bodies is that everyone has very specific needs in terms of the types of documents that they want. And so we look at those very specific documents. We also sit down with the most expert practitioners. So typically what happens is they say, oh, you should talk to Sarah. Sarah's been here for 20 years. She is the rock star, gold standard document maker. And we actually iterate the outputs with those frontline practitioners, where you get to the point that someone who's been in the team for a few months can produce documents that are as good as someone who's been doing it for years.
So it creates the document and an artifact, if you will, but I see it's got actions and things in it. Is it searchable? Is there tracking in it? Or is it simply a document in an archive?
Yeah, it's fully searchable, and you're able to search within the note and across notes. I think you mentioned next steps there.
Actions and things? Tracking actions?
Yes, absolutely. So you can have the actions or however you want them displayed. Sometimes they're at the top, sometimes they're at the bottom. It really does depend. You can have them segmented into different themes. A thing I really like about the tool is that you can also pick up things that are omitted from the conversation. You can say X and Y were not included in the conversation, and Z was there but inadequate detail. And then actually the practitioner, this document, the magic note appears in several seconds, can actually just see that there in real time, and they can go, oh, actually I need to ask you about a few more things. And so they can make sure that they're actually covering everything they need to do in a way that retains that connection with the person. So what that does is it provides kind of on-the-roll contextual training. People are actually getting better at running these meetings every time they use the tool to run one.
Okay. You have a lot of great UK traction. What kind of adaptations have you had to make going from the UK to the US?
Yeah, it's a great question. The short answer is the adaptations are primarily around the procurement compliance piece, so things like HIPAA, which we obviously have. In terms of the actual problems you're solving for yourself, like social problems are really very similar in developed nations, and so you see the same things everywhere. You see, kids being adopted, domestic violence, drug addiction, all of these things, and you see people out there in the field struggling to handle the volume of these problems. So the problems are the same, but some of the compliance and procurement is different.
What's your next second act, your next product that you're looking to build?
Yeah, it's around insights. So actually, it's about bringing recommendations, what we call insights, to those frontline practitioners. We want to keep them in control. So this is using what you'll know is called a human-in-the-loop model. But what we want to do is get smarter and smarter at actually suggesting what they should do to get ahead of providing the best possible care.
Are you getting any pushback from privacy opt-in?
No, the data is stored on.
And we are unfortunately at time. Thank you so much to Beam.
Okay, thank you so much.
Certainly talk afterwards. And next, I am pleased to welcome to the stage Boilerplate.
Oh, need the clicker. I am Brian McGran, the co-founder and CEO of Boilerplate. We offer smart portals for simpler document intakes. Life pro tip, if you are ever on an airplane and you want to make the person next to you stop talking so you can sleep, tell them you built a better document management system. So we were founded in 2019 by a former/recovering federal employee, which was me, who was spending significant amounts of time chasing people for repetitive document requests in the process of providing disaster relief to local governments. And we were wrangling sets of forms and files, juggling email attachments, wasting hours tracking open items in spreadsheets. And then there was kind of this incessant nagging to teammates of, hey, do we have this? Hey, still give this to us so we can get you processed and get you the aid that you need. Boilerplate was built to end the madness with smart visual portals. So some examples of where we're helping: simplifying the form and file collection, onboarding staff, 1099s and volunteers, loan, grant, and aid applications, bid support, vendor paperwork, school enrollments, anywhere where you have a website with PDFs where you're asking people to download them, fill and sign, and then upload them or email them back in with support files. If it involves a set of document requests, Boilerplate keeps it organized. Key features: we offer 3 ways to collect documents. We do an emailed link where they get a link in their email from you. They click it, they see a list of what they need to do. We can also share checklists via QR codes or embedded links. This is something that you could put on your website, something you could put in a bulk email blast of, hey, you want to do this, click this link, and it'll show you everything you need to do. Our platform includes e-signatures and fillable PDFs, itemized file uploads, visual tracking and reminders. So if you look at the screen here, you can see an example. We're onboarding a teacher. They can see exactly what they need to do and work through that list, so they're not doing the back and forth of, hey, what do you still need? Am I done yet? Oh, do we have this? Where is it? All those things. It's all answered visually right there. You see the progress bar up at the top, and then you see each individual item. If things need to be returned, we can easily do that too, built into the system. Flexible exports, so you need to get the data and documents that you collect in Boilerplate out. We can work with other systems to share that information wherever it needs to go. We also offer advanced encryption, and there's reminders built in too, to kind of nudge them gently so you don't have to be the one doing the badgering. So why Boilerplate? Quick setup. Our systems can be operational in minutes, not months. We're getting inquiries right now of, hey, we've got some budget left for the end of the year. Can we have this operational by June 30th, particularly for school districts? We're like, absolutely, we can have you operational tomorrow. Everything's in one place. This creates a better user experience, less back and forth. It's faster turnaround times as well. We're seeing clients that are saying, hey, look, it used to take us 2 weeks to onboard a staff member or collect all the stuff we need. Now we're doing it in 2 hours. And part of that is you don't have to go and chase people. You don't have to go and dig through an email chain to try to figure out what's missing. It's all right there. To date, we've processed over 100,000 requests, saving significant time. If you needed this yesterday, that's my personal cell phone number on the screen. Don't call about my car's extended warranty, but call me, scan the QR code. We'd love to have a conversation, hear about your process, and see how we can make you more efficient in terms of your operations as well as serving your constituents. Thank you very much.
So a question I had in terms of, you mentioned a lot about teachers. What type of public sector government entities are you engaging with so far?
Yeah, so right now we're supporting a number of schools. They're using us for onboarding staff, volunteers, tuition reimbursements, all sorts of different forms. We're working our way through the procurement process with some county and state governments, but as you know, can be a little bit more convoluted than the school districts where it's kind of, hey, here's the proposal. If they've got budget, they put it in front of their board, and usually within a couple weeks, we have that go ahead.
Are you replacing any legacy incumbents, or is this somewhat of a greenfield?
So it's a combination. Usually the legacy incumbents are, I'm handing you a folder of papers and I need you to fill it all out. You show up for your first day of work, and here, rather than meeting your colleagues and doing those things, it's fill out a bunch of paperwork. Inevitably they forgot, oh, I forgot to bring my transcripts or my passport or whatever you need, those types of things. The next level is usually a combination of email attachments, DocuSign, and a spreadsheet. And then we see some, bigger systems, for payroll that really don't offer an easy way to do the type of specialized hiring documents that particularly a lot of schools need. So those are the big things. And then the other side of it is when there's PDFs on a website, it's still the, hey, download it, fill it out, find a way to sign it, and then email it back in with the support files. Great question.
What kind of support do you offer during and after implementation?
Great question. So in terms of the implementation, once we get that go-ahead, we said, send us that normal email list of stuff you're doing the old-fashioned way. It's going to be the last time you do it. Our team gets it set up for them. Then we'll go ahead, we'll do a 30-minute walkthrough where it's kind of show you the setup, show you how to edit things if you need to. Obviously, we're there to support them. As a smaller startup, we want our customers to be successful. We want it to be, hey, start using this platform and let's grow. And we have a lot of clients, one of the highest compliments, one is referrals and say, hey, go help this neighboring entity. Or it's, hey, go help, can you help with this other process? Can you help with this other task? So we'll do that 30-minute walkthrough. Like I said, I give out my phone number. So people will text me, call me. I was in Japan fielding customer support. My wife's like, who are you talking to at 10 p.m. Japanese time on a Saturday? I'm like, one of the clients, don't worry, we got it. And then what we'll do is we'll do regular check-ins. So usually a week or two after the setup, we'll check in, we'll hop on a Zoom, see how it's going, and then kind of routine check-ins from there as needed.
In 20 seconds, traction.
Traction, so we're moving. We've processed over 100,000 requests. We're now at a point where we've hit 2+ years serving schools, which is a big hurdle with a lot of public procurement because they want to see that time window in the public sector.
Time. Thank you so much. Great presentation.
Thank you all.
And next, I would like to welcome to the stage Chief AI.
Hi, I'm Shannon Beckham, the founder and CEO of Chief AI, software to power the world's leaders. For anyone who's worked in a government office, you know it can feel something like this. Staff rely on paper to manage just about everything. For example, here's the process to schedule and prepare for a single meeting, both for a governor and for the President of the United States. The team receives the request, gathers more information, staff provide input, a memo gets written, reviewed, approved, printed, and put into a briefing book binder that gets delivered each night. If changes need to be made, they're made manually across all of this paper, and finally, the leader can prep and walk into the meeting. I know this because I've lived it. That's me, right there, staffing a US senator. I've worked for leaders across the public and private sectors, and this was the process for all of them. Every time a step in that process breaks, an opportunity is missed, a relationship suffers, or a wrong decision gets made. And this problem compounds over time because no institutional knowledge is being stored. These teams have tried other tools, but Salesforce is built to manage customers. Asana is built to manage projects. There is no software built to manage executive leaders. And that's why we're building Chief AI. Chief is the command center to manage a leader's time, relationships, and priorities. We start with time because your schedule is a reflection of your priorities. So we completely reimagine how you build that schedule. We then save all of this data in a relationship database so we can provide you AI insights. And importantly, we're built for government from day one to keep your data private and compliant. I'm going to walk you through how we've been working with the mayor of Denver to change their process that once looked like this to now being powered by Chief. Every scheduling request now flows into a single dashboard, from emails, from their online website form, and from text messages. When we started working with them, they had a backlog of hundreds of scheduling requests sitting in a Salesforce backend. You open that request, and you can now see all of the information summarized and categorized automatically. You have a place for your team to communicate directly in the platform, and you can use AI to generate the memos. Those memos then flow into a briefing book, so the team can prep the schedule, the memos, and the tasks that need to be done that day, click export, and automatically generate that entire briefing book that can be printed or sent in an email, saving hours each day. Next, we have relationships. All of your contacts are automatically stored in a database, so you can keep notes, like their kids' names or what policies they care about, and see all of your past interactions with them. And once we have all this data, we can give you insights about how you're spending your time across topics, geographies, and your goals. And you can ask Chief a question from anywhere in the platform. For the mayor of Denver, this is questions like, who are small business owners in my community that I should invite to this roundtable? Or what % of my time was spent on a climate initiative this past month? Chief not only makes you more efficient, it also makes you more strategic. We just launched in March, and we're onboarding new pilot partners at a fixed price under the RFP threshold, and then we'll convert them into a monthly subscription. There are hundreds of thousands of executives across the public and private sectors, which is a $32 billion market opportunity globally and a $1 billion market opportunity for government in the United States. But really, the opportunity is impact. As Mary from the Denver team said, Chief AI is game-changing. It removes hours of manual processes I've done for years. Every team needs this product. And the truth is, behind every one of these scenes of elected leaders, there's a Mary. There's a staff hard at work, doing admin, responding to constituents, and setting up these meetings to really drive more impact in their communities. We know every tech company tells you they're building software to change the world. At Chief AI, our mission is to build it for the people who actually do. And we're just getting started. Thank you.
So very impressive traction so far. I'm curious about the onboarding process because I can imagine once it's set up, super valuable, but getting all that information to start might be pretty tough. How do you help with that for these high-powered teams?
Great question, and it's what we've been working with these early pilot partners on. So we integrate fully with the calendar. So within minutes, we have all of their calendar data in Chief, and therefore we can pull out the participants, start building out that relationship database, and at a minimum, give them context on where they've been spending their time and where they are moving forward.
So AI is dependent on data. I love the concept, but a briefing book is to prep that chief executive. So where is it sourcing the prep material from?
Yes. So at a minimum, if somebody submits a request, we start to parse out all of that information that goes into a memo, who you're meeting with, why, what the purpose is, what your attire needs to be, all of those details, rather than having someone manually sort through that. And then additionally, we have a context of all their past memos. So, and that's dependent on whether the team wants to provide those. They can choose to provide past memos, speeches, talking points, and we can start to pull from those to generate a memo that would be in their voice and match what their positions are.
Is there a public-facing component when you're communicating what the public schedule is for the mayor or whoever?
So for the mayor of Denver, for example, we rebuilt their public-facing form. So that way it has the right questions that they want, and then it flows into Chief. When they tried to rebuild that form with Salesforce, it took them 6 months, and they still just weren't able to get all the questions they want updated and had a huge backlog.
Do you think there's a bigger opportunity with the private sector here or the public sector?
In terms of number of executives, there are more executives in the private sector. So I think there is a large market opportunity there. But in terms of a repeatable process with people whose sole focus where their currency is meeting with constituents, driving policy forward, actually tracking how they're spending their time and across what constituencies. That process is actually incredibly valuable in government.
So is your pricing model, it's just for the one chief executive, not per like entire city council?
That's how we've done it so far. We've priced it based on principal, so like per principal team. Those teams have been about 5 to 10 people. As that expands, this is why we're working with pilot partners to see what would that need to look like. To maybe there's a mayor and a city manager who both want a chief contract. How could we actually set up multiple workspaces and have your team coordinate across those?
What happens when chief breaks?
Great question. We have everything stored in our database, and we can export everything as Excel spreadsheets. And also, all the data we're storing is coming from somewhere else. So we're really consolidating it and presenting it. So it came from your email. It came from the online form. You have those memos still stored in your SharePoint. We're just presenting them to you through Chief.
And we're at time. Thank you very much. And next, I am excited to welcome to the stage Civic Reach.
Hi, I'm Chip Kennedy, the founder and CEO of Civic Reach. We are a voice AI company to help improve a pervasive and painful problem for every single person in this room: bad customer experience. Now, anyone here who's had a bad customer experience with government, you know it. It hurts our health, our livelihood, and our lives. And to the public officials in the room, you know how painful and expensive it can be to provide any level of customer experience, good or bad. But folks often fall asleep on me when I get into the details, so why don't we walk through an example together? Has anyone here had to get their real ID changed over recently? Show of hands. All right, well, here was my experience a couple weeks ago in North Carolina. We have this awesome chatbot, but it can't help in this case. Instead, it redirects you to collect documents, 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 and documents. When finally you have all your act together, you can go to schedule online, except in North Carolina, sorry, more documents, you can't. The online scheduling's broken. I'm so frustrated at this point, I call. I'm on the phone for hours. I can't get through. There's IVR, bots that can't help me. I can't talk to a human. Not even people on Reddit can teach me how to get through. I'm lost days of work at this point. So I get in my car and I go to the closest agency. And they're closed to me. They won't take walk-ins. I drive around for days until I find a place that will take me, and I've now been waiting in line for 277 minutes. How did that feel? Now, the giggles in the room teach me that this isn't about the DMV in North Carolina. I'm speaking what we all know to be par for the course when it comes to customer experience in local government. It's going to the DMV, it's water permits, neighborhood zoning changes, reporting potholes. Whether you're a resident that's frustrated with a problem in your community, or you're a public official that wants to desperately listen to solve these problems, our customer experience, information, and delivery is all too often downright broken. Now, this experience cost me days of lost work. But beyond that one experience, Americans collectively spend 9 billion hours navigating bureaucracy in this country every single year. And the public officials who want to serve on the other side of that, you all are spending $28 billion at the federal, state, and local level to provide customer experience that is all too often not doing its stated goal of helping residents. Now, the political willpower, government mandates, federal on down interest in solving this problem has never been louder. There are at least 10 public officials in this room that have told me in just the last day that customer experience improvements is one of their top priorities. Beyond that, we know that our current administration is hyper-focused on any technology that can help government run more efficiently. That's where Civic Reach comes in. We are a voice AI platform to help governments create more accessible, easier, and crucially more affordable information and services for all of their residents. How it works is simple. Your residents call in to an existing inbound number. Our AI picks up, answers questions, can switch languages, transfer departments, and create work order requests at any volume of call, any time of day. And for public officials that work with us, they're seeing a 90% cost savings in existing call-taking infrastructure. Now, for the public officials in the room, we are a company and a model and a product purpose-built for government. We're excited to be working with communities in Virginia and Texas and going live to over 75,000 residents later this year. To our investors in the room, we are a very amazing company, in my unbiased opinion. And we're looking forward to a massive opportunity to help local governments all across this country serve millions of residents better. I'm a nonprofit operator and an AI technologist that cares deeply about this problem. Our team has over 50 years of experience selling to, working within, and building technology for the social good. Our founding team is just as passionate and includes Marty Walsh, the former Secretary of Labor. Now, for investors, we have an open round, and I'm happy to talk more if you're interested. More crucially, for our public officials, if you are interested in serving your residents better, and you find that your staff has a hard time picking up the phone, we want to empower them and empower you to do the best job you can to serve your residents well. Thank you.
Can you speak to the relationship between this service and human customer service representatives that are on staff now?
Yeah, it's a good question. So we do our best to augment existing services by the customers we serve. We work with governments that have existing call centers and 311 centers where we augment that staff, either by providing after-hours support or high-volume support when that staff is overwhelmed. For a lot of governments that don't have centralized call centers, we're creating a virtualized call center experience that was unaffordable before this type of technology. In both cases, our AI will very quickly redirect to human staff whenever needed, but we find more and more that residents who call in enjoy the experience and are getting what they need from the AI.
This is clearly not a winner-take-all market, but there are several folks actually in this conference doing something similar. Curious how you differentiate.
It's a very good question. So there's some amazing founders building similar products who I have a lot of respect for and who have different angles into serving governments. To your first point, it's not a winner-take-all market. We need more innovators in public service and working to help public servants. So one more is only going to help things. For Civic Reach specifically, we're the only vendor I know that is hyper-focused just on voice. It's the only thing we do, and we work every day to do it as well as we can, and we want to be the future and the market leader in voice AI for the local government use case.
How are you integrating with other services? So if you're only voice, but there's obviously a lot of ways that customers communicate, and then the cities have different platforms for that. How are you working with them?
It's a great question. So when we think about integration, we're not yet thinking about omni-channel, although that is something we want to consider in the future. Right now, we look at integrations that solve for the voice use case. We've talked to countless governments where there's such great solutions for texting and chat and websites, and we've been working on that as an industry for a long time. But we haven't been working on the very expensive problem of inbound phone calls. So our integrations look like creating work orders and transcripts into work order systems, CRMs, and case management systems, as well as getting emails to all staff members so they can know why residents called, when they called, and if they need a call back.
Yeah, extending your question though, we have municipalities have very diverse platforms. So how are you doing that integration to create these work orders?
Great question. So we work with any systems that have an open API, both through partnerships that we create at conferences like this, relationships we have, as well as relationships we use with our government partners and the technology vendors that they're already using. I'll also note that our implementation doesn't require implementation and integration with existing telephone systems. We work as a cloud vendor outside and forward calls inside, meaning setup doesn't require tough telephone integrations, but rather can be set up pretty quickly.
We're about to get cut off. So.
Well, thank you, judges. Thank you all. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Chip. And next up, I am pleased to welcome to the stage Diggs Fact.
And speaker timer 1. Hi, everyone. Good morning. I guess still morning. Yeah. My name is Nishant. I'm the chairman and CEO at Diggs Fact. And if you guys enjoy watching superhero movies, you'll hopefully enjoy this too, because we had to create our own superhero called the Precogs to fight financial crime like fraud and money laundering. So what we have noticed is most of the companies, government organizations, you name it, they are facing one of the two scenarios. Either they have a lot of rigid rules, and because of that, there's a lot of false positives that they're chasing after, which ends up wasting a lot of time, money, not to mention bad experience for the customer. The other side of the equation is where they do not have enough rules in place, and there's a lot of misdetections, legitimate fraud going through, right? We have all heard stories, see it in news all the time. So we came up with our own, like I said, superhero product called the Precogs, where we have been able to keep both the false positives and the misdetection under 5%. Just to put things in perspective, industry average is between 30 to 40% for both the misdetections and the false positives, according to a report from JP Morgan. So before I get more in the weeds of what the product does, let me tell you how it helps you guys. So some of the things it can help you with is obviously by reducing the false positives and the misdetection, it's much more effective in saving a lot of the funds that can be lost in those payment frauds and a lot of hassle and bad experience from the communities. Obviously, the transaction approval goes through. This works in real time. So it can work for ACH wire transaction as well as, these days there is Zelle and other RTPs, A2A transfers, account to account. It works for all of them. This is currency agnostic. If sometimes we get asked questions, we work in cross-border space as well, but even domestically, a lot of adoption, or not a lot, some adoption has started happening with digital assets. This is currency agnostic, so it works with all. And then it sits on top of our existing whatever fraud monitoring system you guys have in place. So you don't have to do a complete lift and shift. This is sitting another layer on top because obviously whatever you have, you're still experiencing, most of the people we talk to are still experiencing fraud. It is going up year over year, and this is another layer of protection that, based on the numbers we are seeing, which I'm going to share later, will help. Some key features, so it has self-learning features, so we never have to do a software update. We use generative AI to basically allow the model to predict new crime patterns over time, and it trains itself to catch them if and when they do arrive. I talked about some of the other ones. One key thing here to notice is it has data privacy, so we don't need to know the PII data. How it works, I'm not going to get in the details here, but the simple answer is it's basically anywhere in the middle of a transaction. From the time a transaction initiates to the time a transaction ends, it's flexible enough where it can sit based on your own tech stack and architecture. These are just some of the common use cases that you guys always hear about: phishing, scams, account takeover. All of these common use cases can be addressed with this. And then here are just some numbers, key numbers based on our work so far, where we have been able to reduce the number of false positives, how much we've been able to reduce, how much transaction time, and so on and so forth. And I'm running out of time, so I'm just going to go through this last, and then we'll open it up for Q&A. So we have, as I mentioned, some of the, on the left side, subscription model for pricing. But then a lot of the companies, to get them started and easier onboarding, we also have the pay-as-you-go option on the right side that allows you to get started easily. And with that, I will open it up for questions.
Can you speak to the current profile of public sector clients that you're working with?
So we haven't started working with any public sector yet. We are in conversations with a couple of different counties. I'm based in Chicago. There's a couple of counties there locally that I'm in conversations with, but we are not started the pilot anywhere yet. Our goal is to start working with the cities, the counties, the local governments, and start doing some pilots.
Just as a follow-up to that, what is your hypothesis about the core use cases or partners that you'll need in the public sector in order to adapt your technology to their needs?
Yeah, so some of the common use cases that we hear are like, benefit refunds, tax refunds, benefit payouts, I should say, Medicare and Medicaid, and like anywhere where basically there is movement of money involved, which happens in so many different organizations, right? Whether it's incoming or outgoing. If there is fraud and there is money movement involved, this thing works. And to get started, by the way, which I didn't get a chance to cover this on the left side here, to start a pilot, there is no integration needed. It's a very seamless, basically to see the results and the benefits that we talked about. Zero integration, we can get started off the ground right away within a matter of basically identifying the scope, and then that's it.
So I think I can see how this would work on more of like a state or federal side. Can you talk a little bit about kind of an example of how this might work with a local government?
How, meaning in terms of how we will integrate with, or how
Like,
many
what's
use
the
cases?
problem? Yeah, a little bit more about the problem that you're trying to solve for a local government.
So what we have heard, we're talking to a couple of counties, right? So what we have heard is, like I was saying, wherever there is some kind of payout involved, or even your own employee expense involved, there is money movement, right? And there is fraud happening there. I'm hearing stories about, like, even for expenses or vendor payments happening. There is a lot of fraud scenarios happening there where you issue payments to different kinds of vendors and it's not ending there, it's ending somewhere else, and those kind of things. So those are just some examples that I've heard. Obviously, I'm also learning more about different use cases, but I'm hearing these things directly from the counties that we're talking to about how this can help them. So there is a lot more use cases. I'm probably not aware of them, but once we talk, I'm sure we'll be able to explore that.
So there's solutions that do these things now, and I guess I just missed it. Where are you what's the differentiator for your product?
So differentiator one I mentioned was the PII. We don't use PII data. Pretty much every solution out there is relying on their requirement is to know the person, know the sender or the recipient.
But
That's
to
number
catch
one.
something. What is your differentiator to catch something? How are you catching things the other one's not catching?
Oh, so that's where, I mean, we have created our own AI model that uses generative AI, right? So we are looking at transaction parameters. We're not looking at the sender or the recipient, because those are already easily steal. People can go on the dark web and steal your and my identity.
And thank you so much to DigsFact.
Thank you, everyone.
Next up, we have GovStar.
Hi everyone, my name is Vivian Wing and I am the founder of GovStar. So I've spent over a decade leading change management in the public sector and the last 4 years building in GovTech. I've been to over 35 industry conferences in the last 2 years, and one thing is clear. Governments aren't debating whether to use AI, they're trying to figure out how to make it work with the people and the systems that they already have. And the problem isn't a lack of AI, it's a lack of infrastructure to adopt it effectively. Agencies are told to wait for strong AI policies, but also to launch pilots to shape them. We have best practices, but many teams just don't have the time or the capacity to apply them. And meanwhile, 65% of public sector AI projects fail due to gaps in skills and capacity. And most workers say that they can't take a day off without disrupting their colleagues. And this isn't an AI challenge, it is a capacity issue. And GovStar flips the adoption model, making AI manageable and built for how governments really operate. And this is the iceberg below every AI initiative. Above the surface, pilots, automation, and excitement. And below it, staff retire, and institutional knowledge disappears, teams are overwhelmed with backlogs, and there's no time to upskill. And data is scattered or stuck in people's heads. Most AI tools assume that you have clean data, extra staff, and time to gain. But GovStar was built knowing that you don't. We don't need more powerful AI. We need better infrastructure to activate the knowledge that governments already have. So GovStar flips the script by turning the people who know the processes well into the ones who train AI. A public works staffer labeling a pothole like the picture above, that one teaches GovStar what to detect and what matters locally. And the same idea powers redacting PII, sorting documents, and flagging service requests, as well as other use cases. GovStar learns your definitions, what's urgent, what gets escalated, and where exceptions apply. Then it builds automated workflows that route issues in real time, aligned with your organization's policies. It connects directly to the tools that you already use, like Granicus, Outlook, or CityWorks, and there's no rebuilding required. So GovStar may be young, but it's built on decades of experience. And in the past year alone, GovStar has earned over 18 industry accolades, and we're working with innovation networks to build with our users. And our advisors often tell us, I wish GovStar existed back when they were in office. And that's when we knew that we were building the infrastructure that governments actually need. So GovStar isn't just another AI product. It's the connective tissue between your people, data, and systems. You can start small with one use case or one department and grow from there. It's plug and play with your existing tools, and it's governable by design with audit trails, role-based access, and alignment with your local policy. So we're not trying to replace your systems, we're here to supercharge them, as well as the people who use them. So if you're a city, agency, or investor who sees where this is going, let's connect. And if you scan the QR code, that's our capability statement. So let's make AI adoption in government not just possible, but practical. Thank you.
So this hits a spot where it's interesting to me because we like documentation and processes that can feed an AI model. But if it's agent trained or employee trained, and I have 20 inspectors, and because we are immature and don't have it documented, everybody does it differently. When it starts building that automated workflow, how do I not wind up with a bunch of disparate workflows?
So usually the ideal situation is you'll assign one person to lead whatever model that you're building or training, and they'll do the final approval for data that's being fed into the model. You're able to see who's approved which workflow or which data set, and that way you can go back and remove one if it's really messing with the outputs, or if you find that there's a mistake, you can also just go back and delete that specific change that was added to the model. I hope that answers the question. I wasn't sure.
It does.
Can you give some other examples, other than potholes, of how somebody might use the system?
Yeah, so I mentioned earlier that you can redact PII from documents. So in the context of FOIA requests, someone who usually does the work, they would know the names, the companies, and the types of terms that come up specific to their organization. But if they're out for a day or if they leave the organization, there's this huge learning curve where a word that would mean one thing in one city, it wouldn't mean the same thing in another. So that's another, I guess, use case where GovStar kind of takes over and documents that institutional knowledge. So for example, it kind of works like Grammarly, where you highlight the text and you attach a label that you've made specific to that model, and that way you're able to track and see what terms are specific to that department or even the entire organization as a whole.
So I guess while you're training it, it feels like an extra step to train. So how do you get staff on board with that when they are already time constrained?
It's more integrated into your day-to-day. So the other, I guess the alternative is for you to upskill and learn how to use AI, and that's a lot to keep up with, especially with the pace that AI is changing. I don't think that's realistic with the bandwidth that staff usually have. This is a better trade-off where you're kind of just making small documentations that will have long-term effects for the organization or the city that you're with.
If you're trying to automate or train on one specific task, how long does it take to get to the point at which you've now automated it? Like, how much data do you need from a staff member? Give us weeks, days, et cetera.
So because we're able to deploy rapidly models specific to a task within a department, you're working with really niche data. So that can be days of just you doing your work and highlighting and annotating specific parts of your workflow. Thank you.
Wonderful, and we are at time. Thank you so much. Next up, I'm pleased to welcome to the stage Madison AI.
All right, good morning, everybody. Erica Olson with Madison AI. So excited to be here. I was listening to a Masters of Scale podcast last weekend, and Reid Hoffman was interviewing the CEO of Box.com. And he said, if you're building an AI today, you have two choices. You can either sleep or you can have a hobby, but not both. And I have to say that's exactly how it feels at the Madison AI team right now. I know that's how it feels for a lot of my fellow entrepreneurs that are behind stage and presented yesterday as well. To illustrate the point, I pitched at Kansas City last year at this event, and at that time, Madison AI was really just an idea. We had a couple of customers, and we started building. And fast forward to today, 11 months later, we got our 29th verbal. We expanded 2 customers last week. We launched our deep research agentic workflow and our Copilot integration. And I just say that just to say that's the blistering pace of what it takes to build in AI, and we're really feeling it. And we're excited that what's happening in the market is our product market fit is really happening and it's growing. And I promised my team that we would go from one milestone to the next. And if we hit the next milestone, we'll get to the next one. And so 20 customers was the milestone I needed to get to from last pitch to this one. So my team is born from an organization, a management consulting organization. We've worked with cities and counties for about 20 years, and we've been listening to the opportunities, pains, and needs of those elected bodies and senior teams for that entire time. And we saw the need that generative AI could fill. And again, about 18 months ago, we jumped in and we said, let's fill it. Let's build, let's do it. And so what are we building? We're building LLMs for local government. And what does that mean? And what do we do with that? Well, I get about 2 minutes to talk about it. Here we go. So it is the truth that cities and counties, the business of cities and counties, is administrative and knowledge work at high volume. And that looks like about, in an average size city, maybe 1,500 employees, about 35 FTEs, give or take, maybe $5 million a year. And I looked at that and I said, well, if we could AI assist those activities, what could we do and how would we do that, and does that matter? And in order to AI assist these activities, we needed to pull all the information together that is the corpus of information and knowledge of cities and counties that is in Laserfiche and OnBase and Granicus and Civic Plus and SharePoint and Tyler, just Unicode, just to name a few. And we needed to pull all that together and make it fit for use. Thank you, David, for saying that yesterday. And we're converting it, and we're embedding it, and we're indexing it, and we're vectorizing it. And then we're layering agents on top of it in order to execute these use cases at scale and high fidelity. And not only that, we're producing templated outputs that the clerk and the city manager and the finance director will use. And if we can do all of that, we know that we can save cities and counties real time. And here's what's happening today for real. These are results 6 months into a deployment with Washoe County, north of about 500 hours a month. We're really proud of this. There's no going back. We're just getting started. Here are some of our numbers. Our customers love it. And a couple of points about why it's working. And one of the reasons that it's working.
Thank you. We are at time.
Is CivStart. So thank you.
Well, you can say that.
So when you're going into a local government to work with them, are you picking one process to start with, or are you looking kind of comprehensively against like all of the different, financial versus board, commission, council dockets, and is it a different kind of system for each one, or how are you starting off?
Yeah, good question. So it's all about the use cases. So I really think that when we start with really specific use cases, it works. So we can do all kinds of stuff by pulling data together, but then we're just building a Ferrari that sits in the garage. So normally starting with the top 3 use cases, you saw really quickly that we have 3 specific models. We're starting with administration and governance, so the elected bodies, if you will, planning and zoning and budgeting and procurement. But we normally start actually with the administration and governance. That seems to be where the biggest pain points are.
Is there a base training that's done, or are you training your AI model implementation by implementation?
Yes, good question. Kind of a little bit of both. So what's important about what we've built is The data is closed, sequestered, just the agency's data. That is actually refreshed weekly, so it has to be current as well. That information is being fed to a generative AI model, and we're learning from that use, and that's then updating the data set that we're using. So it's a little bit of custom, and then of course we are leveraging the billions and billions of dollars of OpenAI's generative AI model to process the data.
Okay. Could you talk a little bit more about number 5 there, of how you came to be co-owned by local government, and how does that help or hurt your ability to sell into other government?
Yeah, great question. That is a thing for a big panel, by the way. So Washoe County is an equity owner, actually, and a co-designer with us. The CIO is on calls with us. The planners and engineers are co-developing with us, and they are also on our board. Yeah, it's great.
Help us understand what the benefits are of all the time savings you included, because ultimately it's not like city governments are going to lay people off. So what have they been doing with that extra time?
So true. So we always ask that question, right? And the answer to that question is getting to the stuff that they have in their backlog, so to speak, renegotiating interlocals, mentoring their teams, working with their fellow jurisdictions. And we're really wanting to instigate that a little bit more. So, but that's the big idea. And you're right, it's not about staff reduction.
All right, thank you so much, Erica. Let's give her a round of applause. And next, I would like to welcome to the stage MapLight.
At MapLight, we make compliance software for campaign finance, lobbying, and ethics disclosure. I'm Dan Newman, president and co-founder. My background includes 20 years in campaign finance, and I ran 2 tech companies prior to starting MapLight. In every US city and state, there are laws requiring reports on campaign finance by candidates for public office. Many jurisdictions also require personal financial disclosures for candidates and staff, and some require reporting on lobbying activity as well. And these reports by law need to be accessible to the public. That's thousands of filings with thousands of governments each year. But today's tools are old and cumbersome: paper forms, PDFs, and obsolete software. It's a tedious, labor-intensive, error-filled process for governments to manage. And the typical results today are high labor costs, inaccurate file data, non-compliance with the regulations by filers, and limited public access to the data. The MapLight solution is a SaaS disclosure platform for campaign finance, lobbying, and ethics filings. It enables self-service filings by candidates, eliminating the need for staff intervention, automated compliance and oversight, like reminders of when it's time to file and reports on repeat late offenders, a modern dashboard for staff to review and manage filings, and transparency for the public who can get easy access to campaign finance, lobbying, and ethics data. The MapLight solution is the most full-featured and time-saving solution. It reduces costs, boosts staff efficiency, increases accuracy, and increases public transparency. Like our client, the City and County of Denver, said, the old system was a pain for filers to use, so they would often put off filing until the last minute. Now, with the MapLight system, they file earlier, better quality reports with fewer errors. The California Secretary of State said the MapLight figured out logical ways of presenting complex information. It was a huge win, not only for our administration, but also for the public, which now had a super quick system that could deliver data instantly. Working with MapLight, we changed the public's view of our agency. And it's been taking off. Revenue from $200,000 in 2022 to $1.1 million last year to $3.1 million this year. That's 15x revenue growth in just 3 years. Today's MapLight customers include states like California, Colorado, and Maine, and cities like Denver, Lakewood, and Minneapolis, with a market for growth of 20,000 local and state government agencies. We're here at the exhibit hall today. Please come talk to us about how we can help you reduce costs, improve compliance, and increase public transparency.
Can you talk a little bit about your pricing model for the city or state client?
For cities, it's a subscription model. So for example, Minneapolis pays about $60,000 per year. At the states, there's implementation cost plus annual subscription.
So this, and I could be wrong, but it seems like a pretty niche solution. So how could this be successful? I'm thinking about like in local government, it's becoming a struggle with all these, small solutions for different problems. And so have you thought about how you might integrate and how might you expand this so that it's tackling more than just kind of this niche solution?
That is a possibility, but campaign finance is a very specialized area. It's kind of analogous to tax software. It has to be built exactly the right way to put up the right compliance flags and make sure that the filers are doing things the right way. So it's not really a general purpose problem, and so we really have a specialized solution for that. I mean, the state of the field is very poor. As I put up, people use PDFs, people use homegrown software, people use obsolete products. If you've ever tried as a member of the public to get information out of one of these systems or as a filer to put information in, your experience was probably not very good. And so the market is just not well served by something general purpose.
Can you talk about how you empower regulators to sort of take action when things are off in filings or when people miss deadlines, et cetera?
Yes, I missed a word there. Empower, who is it?
Empower basically the enforcement regulators, et cetera, who have to do stuff about mistakes and errors.
Yeah, so the system automatically surfaces mistakes or regulatory problems by filers. Like a common one is over the limit transactions, right? So there's one city you know of, the staff is overworked. They don't have time to like pour through all these forms, right? But someone made a contribution that was actually illegal, didn't come up until a few years later. Newspaper noticed it. It's a big scandal, and the staff looked terrible because they were supposed to have caught it, but of course they can't. The system does it for them, so it eliminates that potential for embarrassment, and more importantly, it lets the regulators spend time on the things that actually matter by surfacing it for them. Then they can go out and solve the problem.
Are there integration capabilities to integrate with dashboards that perhaps third parties use to?
Yeah, absolutely. Like, so we can output the data for business intelligence, stuff like that. Mm-hmm.
How quickly can you get a customer up and running on the implementation?
What was that?
Side? How quickly could you get a customer up and running?
So it totally depends. Like if something is based on what we already have, then same forms, maybe a neighboring city, neighboring state could be very quickly within a month or two. Including training and testing and all that. The state solutions, they typically have more customization needs, takes longer.
Cool.
Thank you.
Thank you so much to MapLight. And next up is Platia.
All right. Hello, everyone. My name is Billy Trakis, and I am the founder of Platia. Over my 7 years of working in GovTech, I've noticed how fast the landscape is changing. With AI companies coming in, there's a lower barrier to entry more than now than ever before. But with this advanced technology and advancement, we're still discovering technology in the same old-fashioned way. Platia, in Greek, means town square. So it's a place where people can gather to share ideas, information in an open and transparent way. And Platia is that square. We're making it so local government can discover what's possible, but then also where GovTech can meet well-qualified buyers in a single place. So let's look at the opportunity and the problem that we're looking to solve. It's really twofold within a marketplace. For local government, really simple. It's hard to know what's out there. You type in community engagement, you can find 20 different platforms or companies that are trying to solve 20 different things. So doing that research and fighting through the noise makes it really difficult to find out and compare solutions from apples to apples. For GovTech, just to put it in plain English, it's hard to sell to you guys. You have a very limited amount of time, resources, you have to go to conferences and outbound, so it makes it very expensive to find well-qualified buyers so you can have an increase within your sales cycle. So how does it work? So for local government, we vet these solutions all in kind of one place. Local government officials can view demos, view case studies, key features, all in one place without giving their personal information over to those GovTech companies. When they are ready to connect, we have a one-click button where you can select hit a demo or ask a question, which instantly connects you with that GovTech vendor and gives your personal information over. So hopefully within that time, you can save time. You browse the marketplace that is categorized by your department, saving those time and resources. Our main goal for local government is trying to make local government more proactive than reactive in their search. Oh, I have to click it 2 times for the video. Nope, not working this time. All right, so for GovTech, really simple, right? We want to bring qualified buyers to your door, right? How do we separate from the noise, and how do we get people over to your product and see your solution? So on the local government side, you have to be verified in order to see the product in the video demos. So you don't have to worry about somebody coming in, taking a look at your technology, looking behind the curtain. Everything is safely stored there, and you know who's ever videoing or seeing your videos, downloading your case studies, is a verified local government participant. Behind the scenes as well, you get to see total page views, you get to see user insights as well based upon location and city titles, so you can kind of develop some trends of maybe where your technology is picking up steam and help you notify and help target your outreach in specific areas if needed. What's really great too, within that one-click button functionality of connecting, right, takes the hesitation and the restrictions of going to the website, filling out another form, making that instant connection right there. So where we're at, happy to say this is actually our launch week, so thank you for being a part of it. We have 50 companies that have been committed to signing up for the marketplace. I know I owe some people in this room some emails, but we already have a couple companies that have been signed up. Once they complete that process, it's a form fill, really easy to complete that process. Once a company registration is complete, I meet with the vendor to go over some minimal requirements, making sure they're checking some boxes regarding security and all that. We have over 120 local government officials who signed up for beta, and then we also have an ILG partnership that is spreading the word in July. Thank you so much.
What's your pricing model?
Yep, so it's free for local government. In order to get the free or the enterprise model for GovTech, they pay for those CTA buttons and the advanced analytics. So we're paying about $5,000 a year per product for GovTech.
Can you talk a little bit about your plan to make this sticky for local government? Like, I get why, I would probably be the type of company that should be on here as a GovTech company, but how do you get local government to keep coming back and making sure it's actually useful for them?
Great question. So the whole goal, right, being making more government more proactive than reactive. We haven't launched in the AI model yet, but it's being built to where governments can easily click and drag their strategic plans, right? And then it would be a matchmaking surface as far as these would be the companies that would fit in within your strategic plans that could help your initiatives. And also another thing too is we're gonna be piloting with cities is based upon those strategic plans as platforms come to market or come onto the marketplace, we'll send those curated companies over there for them then to come over to the site to view those demos.
So there's obviously a lot more than 50 GovTech companies, and if the companies have to pay to be part of your platform, you're going to miss a lot of them if you're in local government. So how do you match? I mean, I'm just trying to understand how it's beneficial for a local government if you're not seeing the entire landscape of what's out there and you're only seeing the companies that have decided to participate.
Yeah. So we also have a free option for GovTech companies that can host their demos. What they don't get is those CTA buttons and those advanced analytics. So they're paying essentially for that frictionless sales process and that meet with that one-click functionality.
Do you have a team validating both vendor and customer, and how do you see that changing as you scale?
Yeah. So being on the GovTech side, I know there's a huge appetite, right? Because it's very expensive going with the conferences and just getting in front of people. But also too, with the validation, just talking with city managers and local government officials. Again, kind of going back to what I'm saying, it's very hard to see apples to apples what's out there. Your day-to-day is so busy, and a lot of times too, just being on the GovTech side and community engagement, a
lot of times I'll meet people who have done the research, who have looked, but they're still coming up and saying like, all right, what do you guys do? And we're not the good product fit for actually what they're looking for. So we want to just make it very transparent within that process, and so they can make better decisions, but then also save time.
Talk to us about your goals for building a sort of healthy, efficient marketplace. So do you have a magic number ratio between vendors to government, or a couple of verticals where you want extreme density of solutions?
Yeah, so right now we have it covered by department. So we want to get department coverage ideally throughout, right? And so the magic number in order to make that validation of sending over those curated companies is about 100 companies or so. But also what's good is that we can have 100 different products too. So one company can have multiple different products.
Thank you, Billy.
Thank you so much, everyone.
We have 3 more awesome startups to hear from, and next up is Sensei.
Good morning, DC. I am Dan Thompson, the founder and CEO at Sensei. Today, I'm here to talk about one of the biggest silent costs to enterprise and governments around the world, knowledge loss. I'm sure here, I won't ask for a show of hands, but I'm sure here everyone knows someone or a team of people who are soon to retire. And when they leave, typically governments, enterprises, organizations, startups, all handle this very, very poorly. Just yesterday, I was speaking to Lewis from Peachtree Corners, who said that they recently had a city manager depart who was responsible for several key projects in their district. He said that Brandon is still asked to this day by the entire team questions about the projects he worked on and the teams, the projects, his knowledge, basically, the tacit knowledge that went with him when he left. There are plenty of Brandons in every organization around the world that are leaving, and as they leave, they get an offboarding interview, a small handover document, or maybe they do a bit of extra training, or maybe they're even paid as a consultant to stay on a bit longer to answer questions. What if there was a better way of handling this? That's where Sensei comes in. Sensei is currently validating a concept around improving the offboarding concept with a version of our technology that we've already built in our quest to build autonomous virtual humans. So by taking that knowledge, that tacit knowledge, and I'll have it here, capturing that tacit knowledge from their documents, their messages, from their files, and actually also interviewing them, sending an AI to phone them up every day for 20 minutes or an hour or over text message or email, sending that daily conversation as a way of recording their processes, their thought processes, their knowledge, their understanding of the different teams, projects, and communities that they deal with day to day. You capture a lot of that information. Our proprietary knowledge engine, which we call a wisdom engine, takes all that information and makes it available as an interactive knowledge base via our knowledge bases that can interact with the users. This means that instead of these handover documents that no one reads, instead of the offboarding interviews that no one reads, or only goes usually upwards rather than spread out with a team, it means that this interactive knowledge base is available to the teams, not just then, but also in the future. So 2, 3 generations of people down the line, you actually end up with that knowledge base still available. What that also means is it's actually great for the individual leaving as well, because we're building into our system an opportunity for them to continually earn by their continued knowledge. So if the chat base, a knowledge base, doesn't actually have the relevant information, it will send them the leaver an email. They respond, it updates the knowledge base, and they can get rewarded for that. Sensei is currently looking for design partners and pilot partners to work with to implement this system, which we think can entirely revolutionize and disrupt the way that offboarding is done around the world in pretty much every enterprise, organization, and government. The current process is terrible. Staff turnover is inevitable. You're looking at a huge amount of workforce in the next 5, 10 years that are looking to retire or leave. And the actual value of that silent value of those leavers is immense. Thank you very much, and I welcome some questions.
How do you engender trust with employees who sometimes don't want to engage with these systems because they feel like they're replacing them?
So usually people are good leavers rather than bad leavers, and in the same way, most people will try and contribute to some kind of offboarding interview, even though they wouldn't, or they will do a handover document. All we're doing is making that an easier process. And instead of replacing people, if people are retiring in particular, they're already leaving at the time, all we're doing is making sure that their knowledge is actually made available to their teams that they've worked so hard for decades sometimes. In government, I think maybe Rita's not here today, but talking to Rita in the past about, there's people who are retiring, especially in the US government, who've been working in a position for 40 years. There's a huge amount of that knowledge that just isn't available in the current documentation. So by having a process that captures it better and then actually makes it useful by tying it into learning management systems and onboarding systems, it just improves the whole process a lot, because right now it's just a completely neglected part of the employment process.
And just as a quick follow-up, how do you handle maybe unhappy departures?
That's a fantastic question. Again, we're looking for design partners to really figure out some of those questions. I don't really have the answer for bad leavers, but in the same way, it's having something that is available which can tie in other stuff as well, like their documents, their messages, their CRM systems, to make it a more interactive knowledge base going forward. It's still going to be better than the nothing that you get otherwise.
So,
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
I'll say roughly what's the time it takes to get a company or an organization onboarded and then to actually ask all these questions, get the documents trained up? Like what's onboarding in months?
Love that question. Onboarding for an organization, government, is minutes, if not a bit of time to get the training and everything set up. In terms of actually getting them to upload the documents, it really does depend on the availability of the data and how much data they have, but usually you can train one of these chatbots in an hour or two. But then obviously with the interview process, which is the key part for capturing that tacit knowledge, it's really about the amount of time you have available. So if someone's leaving in 3 months, you want to spend 20 minutes a day interviewing. If it's 1 month, then maybe an hour a day to really get in. But the AI is trained to quiz you on your job with context from the organization you work for and your job role within it.
So are you actually just pinpointing people that are retiring and then they are utilizing this tool, or is it across the organization? Because a lot of people leave and it's not a retirement, it's not, they also don't want you to know that they're looking for a new job or leaving, and they also have a lot of knowledge. So how does that work if you're not kind of capturing the entire workforce?
Yeah, 20 seconds. In theory, like every organization has this, right? Especially some of the organizations that have older generations leaving, or anyone leaving, key people leaving. And I think, again, usually to my point is that people are generally good leavers and will have a gardening leave or a time off. But this human-in-the-loop feedback system that actually allows it to keep training after they've gone by rewarding that person, I don't have time, does actually kind of solve that, because it rewards them into that after they've left. But that's my time before someone calls it. Thank you very much.
And we are at time. Thank you so much. And I am pleased to welcome to the stage Tech TLC.
Hi, everybody. Okay, you're almost done, so be happy. I am Deb Shapiro. I'm the Chief Kindness Officer at Tech TLC. And how I started this company was I was at dinner with my parents, who are in their 80s, and a bunch of their friends. And my mom said, "Oh, everybody, Debbie's here. She can help you with your technology." And I thought, oh, God. And so I have been my family's help desk for many, many years. And after that night, I realized there's a very, very large gap in training end users for products across the board. I have worked in SDLC product as a Scrum Master for years. And always, the last few sprints, I was brought up, how are we going to be able to train the end users for these products? The answer was always, oh, we'll put out some release notes or put out a diagram. Well, that is not really the way most people learn. And we have a huge gap, especially with our seniors and veterans and underserved communities. And as you can see, there was $1.7 trillion last year that went unspent. And so we have come up with a concept of some very cool videos and helper videos that are fun, that are engaging, and we are meeting people where they are with their needs. And to be honest, there is really no one else doing this. There are a lot of organizations that train internal teams, but not a lot of organizations that are training your end users. And there are 77% of seniors do not stay with these organizations because they feel that they are ignored. And so these are our verticals that we can work with: state and local governments, health tech and pharma, senior and affordable housing, SaaS, and grant and non-funded nonprofits. So why us? Because we have so much experience in SDLC, and we can work with your go-to-market teams. We have proven results and experts in adult and learning digital accessibilities. But let me show you what one of our videos looks like.
Every day, millions of people are asked to use technology they don't understand to access services they desperately need. Yet 77% of them go unused. Why? Because one-size-fits-all training does not fit all. Organizations are investing in digital tools, but when people can't use them, those tools fail. Services go unused, support teams get buried, trust is lost. That's where we come in. Tech TLC creates custom, patient, step-by-step videos and handouts that educate people how to use your tech. No tech lingo, no pressure, just empowerment, all while having fun. We start with your product and your audience. Then we build branded videos, designed around your platform and the real barriers your users face. And then we make it easy to understand and fun. We include matching printable guides, so no one's left behind. The results? Fewer support center calls, higher site usage, lower end user frustration, and a whole lot more happiness and confidence for your users. I'm Deb, founder of Tech TLC. We've helped thousands of users feel confident using the tools they were once afraid of. Your incredible products can help so many. Let's make sure they are used by your consumers.
I look forward to chatting with you a little more with your questions.
Thank you. It looks like for each client, you're doing a lot of custom work with the videos and the handouts. How do you keep your own costs down when you're creating these custom pieces of collateral?
Thank you for that question. We work with offshore teams to help us keep our costs down. Our earn rate, we're at about 70% earnings per video of what we're making. So our costs are very low and our earn is very high.
So there's a lot of generative AI tools coming out to help create content on the fly. Are you using any of those for videos and content or no?
We will. We just started in October. We're babies. And our goal is to build a dashboard that will include AI. And we are going to create this dashboard so it will teach a lot of different demographics. If there's if there are people that have ADHD, if there's someone that is a senior, if this is a product focused towards a specific group, you can choose that in the drop-down. Do you want this to be a fun video, funny video? Or do you want it to be very serious? That will be another question that they're going to be answering. And what are your end goals? So that is what our goal is to build with AI.
As a follow-up to that question, is there any reusability of the video assets?
Absolutely, absolutely. And so what we will be able to do is create, hopefully, reuse some of the video assets for other clients. So our goal is to create something that's very simple to use, very profitable, and through our AI system, it will be reusable for clients.
Do you have a metrics or evaluation regime that helps identify what methods work best to communicate what you're trying to communicate relative to those that perhaps are falling flat?
We are working on those metrics right now, We have gone through a few iterations. At first, I thought this would be good as a B2C, and it's not. And then we came to a B2B, but now we're a B2B2C. And this would fit well with a lot of local governments, state governments, as well as any company. I worked at Capital One. This would definitely be something Capital One can use. I worked at Fidelity. This could be something Fidelity could use. Could be used as a government product as well as a private sector product. All right.
Thank you so much, Deb. Let's give her a round of applause.
Have a great trip home.
And last but not least, I am going to welcome Voting Buddy to the stage.
Interesting story.
Hey.
So I thought I'd share mine.
Just take this.
All right, sounds good. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir.
Okay. Oh, wow, that's great. Yes, I am Dr. Dwight with Voting Buddy. So basically, what Voting Buddy intends to address is a problem that we've probably all faced across the board, and that is the problem, be it politicians, be it voters, be it those governing officials, trying to assess where people stand on specific issues. And that is what Voting Buddy is able to do. What Voting Buddy, we've developed an AI that is able to accurately assess where politicians stand, where voters stand, where constituents stand, and actually our AI is able to even assess where institutions and non-living entities stand, you know, things like that. So when I was at the last GovTech, I was spending most of my time talking about the campaign aspect of Voting Buddy. And, you know, we were doing our pilot, and, you know, during the election cycle, everything was going, you know, really well. And basically what we determined is that, yes, you know, Voting Buddy was able to be used like a dating app, if you will. You know, you answer a few questions and our AI would kick in and you could match voters with politicians who think like them, and politicians could see who the voters are in their, you know, voting districts or what have you who think like them, and, you know, kind of marry them up just like you would a romantic partner, but just like with the voting side. And so that's what we were talking about last go round. Now it turns out that things worked out well, and we were assessed to be objective by the news media, by academic institutions, even by the politicians themselves. And so we're shortly after that, we got a deal with the Montgomery County Public School System, and now we're actually in the public schools as a pilot to help with the education of students as it relates to civics and social studies and all of those things. So what I'm here to talk about today is an application of Voting Buddy that relates to, if you will, governance and governing officials. Probably, you know, a lot of you all in the audience. So basically with Voting Buddy, and actually, let me see if I can advance this. Yeah, with Voting Buddy, as it relates to governance, basically we're still in the discovery phase on this, so please don't be surprised if you get a call from us just trying to make sure that what we're building is actually what you all need. But what we found so far with our discovery is that it's really difficult for small market governing officials and politicians to assess where their constituents actually stand on certain issues. You know, sometimes, you know, you can run a survey and you might get, if you're lucky, 1% response rate, and that's not really a critical mass. You know, you can farm it out to somebody like a national organization, and, you know, they might give you some results. Maybe it'll be really expensive, and it might be too late to actually do anything about it. And what we've also found is the modeling that goes into these national polls, they kind of whitewashes everything, and that's why I have these pictures up here. If you see here, and we're looking at Joe Biden as the voter, Joe Biden as the politician, not the politician, but the constituent, and and the voter. What we saw with the modeling is they said, oh, this is an older white man and he earns XYZ hundred thousands of dollars a year, and he has a white collar job, therefore he is conservative, very conservative on border issues. Now again, all politics aside, we can assess that, you know, Joe Biden is not a strong conservative on border issues. As we see here with these two gentlemen, they have the same makeup in the computer models. But you see one is going to be Ozzy Osbourne, one is going to be King Charles III, even though they have the same makeup in the models. So what Voting Buddy is able to do is we're able to, again, use our AI to assess where people stand, and then you can use that to help the governing officials, govern that much better. A little bit about my background. I'm a former professor at MIT. I was a professor of nuclear engineering and a professor of political science. My co-founder wife was a professor at Johns Hopkins, and she was in the School of Education. So with that, and our team is full of rock stars.
And we are at time.
Okay, yeah.
Time for questions.
What is so is this something that governments would purchase? What's your pricing model?
Right. So for a pricing model right now, so far, I'm just being quite honest, we have been working with design partnerships up front, and the pricing model would officially be, probably by subscription or as needed. If they have a specific need, we design the need with them, and then we just, figure out the price as we solve the problem.
Can you speak to the approach you have for auditing the categorization?
Right, yeah, that's a good one. So how do we know that our accurate is indeed accurate? It's kind of an iterative process. So far, what we've been able to do is, like I say, we've farmed it out to those who would have an axe to grind, if you will. So we farmed it out to the news media, farmed it out to academic institutions from Dartmouth to UCLA, and we say, tell me where we're showing bias. And we said the same thing to the schools, because of course, even with the school system, they have to send a letter out to all the parents across the county. Hey, your kid is going to be using this tool. Break it, see what. So far with those tools coming to assess us, we have not been found to be biased.
So you can be accurate and unbiased, but I saw things like sentiment analysis and stuff like that in there. Being in municipal government, I know that there's few people that come all the time with a very vocal position. You may be assessing the vocal minority, if you will, very accurately. How is your AI assessing the silent majority?
Right, great question. And actually, truth be told, it's not that vocal minority. You don't really know if that is a spokesperson group for the majority or if that is indeed the minority. So what our AI is able to do is we're able to kind of take data from similar markets from across the country. And so, for example, we wouldn't use New York data if we're working Topeka, Kansas, if you will. And so what we're able to do is draw ties from similar markets. And so that's kind of the padding under the lack of critical mass of data that we would have. So that vocal majority or vocal minority, that's going to be present in every market. And so we know how to properly weight up or down. But again, my hope is that through the discovery process, we would be able to tailor that specifically to a specific locale.
Well, but follow up, because it says small market. So a small market in Mississippi is going to be different than a small market in Idaho.
Right. When I say small market, I'm talking probably below the state level. It's pretty straightforward getting a state level survey or whatever. Once you get down to counties, cities, towns, that's where we've gotten the most interest. Okay. Thank you so much.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. And a round of applause, really, for all of the awesome startups that went today. Everyone did such a great job. So before we break for lunch, I want to make a quick note. There will be a lunchtime keynote in here at 12:40, and this is a great space to eat. So if you want to grab your food and bring it back here and network here, that would be wonderful. Before we break for lunch, though, I'm really excited to welcome a speaker to the stage for just a few minutes. That's really going to share his personal story about how public service has impacted him. Shabazz Ahmad is the CEO of Starlight AI, and he is going to come out here briefly and share some remarks before welcoming you to lunch. So thank you and welcome.
Thank you so much.
Yep.
Good morning, everyone, or good afternoon, rather now. It's wonderful to be here with you today. And we've just witnessed some incredible demos, 12 product pitches in a row, which is quite a lot to take in. Don't worry, I'm not here to pitch you a 13th. Instead, I wanted to share something slightly different before we break for lunch. So over the past few days, being in your esteemed company, I've realized that everyone here is either solving problems for governments or working within government, all in the spirit of serving the public better. And usually, everyone who enters public service has an interesting story. So I thought I'd share mine in these brief minutes. So my story begins with my late grandfather, who was born in the mountains of pre-partition India in the 1930s. He was orphaned at a very, very young age, and he was put on a train as a young child and ended up in care at an orphanage in Delhi called Bachcho Ka Ghar, which translates directly to children's home. And now you'd think, no prospects, tough life ahead, who knows where he could end up? And we have so many challenges in social care today, right? So one can only imagine what life was like back then. But this orphanage really cared. And one day, the vice president of India at the time came to visit the center. And he spotted some talent in my grandfather and decided to mentor him. And my grandfather went on to become a professor of politics at one of the country's top universities and raised 6 children alongside my grandmother, including my father. And my father also had his own tough start in life, because as a family, we just had enough to get by. He worked very hard and became a qualified social worker, immigrated to the UK with barely anything to his name, but was on a mission to help children in need. And even when he started his career, he would volunteer and drive the elderly around in his free time. He then went on to start one of the most successful child protection agencies